Hi guys, it's Wolvie here, guys. Just letting you know, guys, start actually checking out your emails because I've been told that the notifications are being sent out. The process has started. Hopefully, by the grace of God, maybe tomorrow or by Wednesday, we'll be able to celebrate. Okay, guys, just remain in faith. Right, looks like things are definitely rolling. All right, take care, guys. Have a beautiful, beautiful day. Bye-bye.
I think if the talks aren't successful with Iran, I think Iran is going to be in great danger. And I hate to say it, great danger, because they can't have a nuclear weapon. You know, it's not a complicated formula. Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. That's all there is. You can't have it. Right now, we have countries that have nuclear power that shouldn't have it. But I'm sure we'll be able to negotiate out of that, too, as part of this later on down the line. But Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. And if the talks are successful, I actually think it'll be a very bad day for Iran if that's the case. Yeah.
The news segment. What have we got in terms of the news? Well, not a lot. It was set to go once again for this weekend. It did not go overnight. I was told once again, and I've been told by one particular source that Sunday is absolutely the best night. It can go on the Forex. It can be a public thing. Yada, yada, yada. We continue to have reports that people have exchanged currencies in the background. And those reports are somewhat credible and believable that people have gotten money for their dinars. You have some people that have had those funds released, absolutely had those funds released and have been spending them. You also have people that just see a pending there, and you have other people that had a pending and now no longer have a pending. Rates have continued to fluctuate a little bit based on the price of oil and other things that may affect this. We continue to have reports that Iraq is a go, that Iraq has put in their codes, that they are waiting like everybody else for this to happen. Certain other people are saying things along the lines of Iraq is done, the banks are done, all the international organizations are done. Everything is done, yet we continue to not understand why we do not see this. Now, you will have some theorists out there who will tell you that the chaos in the markets, and it's not really chaos, it's a decline. It's a bear trend on the most overinflated market in the history of the universe. This American stock market is not worth 43. It should not be at 43,000 points. It should be about half of that. It's gone down to about 37,000 points. So my 401k is suffering. It's scary. I know that. I understand that. But the reality is it's a vastly overinflated stock market that's been pumped up with printed money for the last 5 or 6 years to try to make Joe Biden look better. So this is a necessary correction. It's also the perfect cover for the revaluation of the currencies. Trump put the tariffs on Vietnam and on Iraq and on lots of other countries last week. The logical response to that would be, okay, well, we're going to revalue our currency to offset the effects of the tariffs. And yet nobody has done that. At least it hasn't been released. So we're waiting on some of that to happen. The reality is that this so-called chaos, some people on other dinar channels who shall remain nameless, Tony, will tell you, this chaos is the worst thing we could have. No, it's the perfect cover for the revaluation of the currencies, because with all the other financial news out there, everything will be obscured. So I'm not positive why they're waiting. They're telling the story of, well, it was supposed to happen today, but then the markets went down again, and now they're waiting for the markets to stabilize and blah, 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 yada, yada, yada. It can happen at any time. And believe me, if Iraq or Vietnam or both or a bunch of other countries were to revalue their currencies right now, today, it would not be noticed. It would not go into the headlines. It would not be the financial headlines. So we're actually in a perfect spot for this to happen and for our appointments to be set. Now, I think we've all thought and hoped and believed that we were going to get our appointments well before there was a public revaluation of the currencies. That has not happened. So we're sitting there waiting. There is a report or two from people who say it's still gonna happen today. I find it, if it's gonna happen today, it's gonna have to happen after, I think, 1:30 Pacific time, when the markets close. That would be the most likely time for it to happen. But again, Jen, that's contradictory to me, because that's when there would be the most attention focused on it, right? When the markets are closed and everybody will go, wait a minute, Iraq revalued their currency? Oh, well, didn't we hear about that 15 years ago? So the information is out there. It doesn't make a lot of sense. Hopefully, I guess, the angels can make some sense of what is going on through the Jentel, your Jentel. So why don't you take the stage and tell us what you got today?
Okay. Hello. Good morning. This is Jentel Interdimensional Meditation for 4/7/25, 6th level of heaven. I went to the field by my tree. The dress was blue. Peace. Okay. Everybody be at peace. Okay. I spoke to I called Jesus and the Archangel team, the whole team. RV News. A trigger/switch has been pulled. They are watching public rates rise on back screens, and should be releasing to the public for various countries anytime between tonight and Wednesday. Imminent. Public reveal phase is imminent. So what that looks like is what I see is the screen. Looks like Iraq's rate is there. Looks like the other countries like Vietnam and things are in the sense, and they're going to rise. Okay, so what they're going to do is get to the calculated public rates, and they're going to put it out in the public. This will be explained as an attempt to combat the tariffs and inflation. Markets will go up and down. Iraq was forced to go, just like we got in previous Jentel. Jentel confirmed. Markets will be So there's going to be talk about oil and minerals coming, assets we have in the ground. Okay. Now, for when they post these revalues, okay, Trump's going to do something. He's going to talk about, just like I said, they might do something in the interim instead of going directly to gold, but it's going to. It said, Jesus said, this will help markets and the dollar ground. I'm not familiar with that term. I assume it means stabilize. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Announcement coming, 24-hour period. The transition has begun. So we're just waiting for those back screen rates to get to a place where they need to be to put it out in the public. That is the next step. And that's Jentel for today.
That's amazing. That's great stuff, because it's funny. It's almost like a slot machine, right? What you're describing is like a slot machine, and it goes around, and when you get the 3 cherries across, boom, you get the jackpot. And so all the rates are going like this, and when they get lined up like they're supposed to for each currency, boom, you get the jackpot. It's really an interesting description that you gave there. So basically, you're saying and hearing the same things that I'm saying and hearing, which is that we wait till it gets to a certain point. The market chaos is a good cover for what's going to happen. You expect the rates to be public, or they do. The angels do, between today and Wednesday. It's imminent. One of the things I thought was interesting was Iraq was forced. Tony even said that today during his call. I listened to a little bit of it before the show. He said he's behind the times a little bit. He said they're trying to force Iraq to go.
No, that already happened.
But it already happened, yeah.
So it's in the hands of powers above that.
And if I heard you correctly, you said that first the values are going to be calculated on like other things than gold, like oil and minerals. Did I hear that correctly?
That's what I was getting, is that there's going to be talk about oil and minerals coming. This will help markets and the dollar
Yeah.
ground. And I'm like, ground?
Yeah.
Gabriel said that. And I'm like, I don't know.
No, well, that
He
means
goes, just write it
stabilize.
down,
Yeah, it just
ground.
means stop fluctuating and going
Yeah.
like this, right? And that's what
Stabilize.
Yeah.
And then there's an announcement coming within a 24-hour period. It could be the posting of that, or it could be a U.S. announcement.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that's within a 24-hour period after they post these rates. So we'll just have to wait and see. But the transition to do that has begun.
Yeah, that's great news. It would also help Iraq's rate be higher now during the exchange period. Because why? Because Iraq has more oil than they have gold, right? So if you're eventually going to go to a gold-based system, Iraq's rate could be up here, like, I don't know, Jen, I don't know, $16, like somebody said years ago.
Oh, that's something I want to say. Okay, when these come out, they're going to be lower street rates. Okay,
Right.
You may be disappointed in some of the rates. I'm pretty sure from what I saw, and I'm really not going to say anything, but it's about the street rate for Iraq is about what I told you it's going to be.
Yeah, about
The $16 to 4.29 for the dong, all that stuff is what you're going to see on your receipt at the exchange appointment.
Exchange center. Yeah, you're going to get a higher rate there. And then Iraq could theoretically eventually publicly become that. But then when they say, well, now we're going to switch the system to emphasize gold more than oil, and it'll still be part of it. But then that's when we'll get into the more equilibrium of currencies, when they will all become more grounded. Think about the word grounded. It means what's oil, Jen? Where's oil? It's in the ground. Where's gold? It's in the ground. It's grounded. It means it's based on something solid, the ground. So it's an interesting metaphorical reference the angels made right there. So gold standard comes later. Do you get any sense of when it's going to come later? A couple months, a year down?
I don't even want to estimate that at this time, because right now we're just going to stay where we're at. We're watching these. The next step here is to get those rates posted. We do have. I feel like there could be a week or so, a delay, a couple weeks, so that we can, and with this grounding to stabilize everything for that. And I think there's a reason why the street rates come in low, so there's not that much panic. The U.S., the dollar, maybe they up the value just a little bit. I don't know, but we need an RV window. So
So at this point, do you anticipate us having the public rate, like you think that we're going to have a public rate this week, that like there's going to be some public rate? Absolutely.
I think there's going to be a list of them.
Yeah. So, but that's going to be different than what we're going to get at a redemption center. So it's interesting.
Yeah, it'll be much lower.
We always thought we were going to go to our appointments first, and then they were going to do a public rate a couple of weeks later, but it turns out that's not going to be the case. Maybe they just decided.
Well, like I told you a long time ago that Iraq's going to post a public rate of like 392.
Yeah.
And that could be like 391.7, 392. All right.
I actually got 491 last time, which was really interesting because Tony said he knew somebody that got 491 in Iraq last week.
Okay. Really well, I don't know what to tell you about that, but that's what I originally saw a while ago. Yeah. I told you guys.
Yep.
So that was the old rate plus inflation.
Yeah.
And that's
that would make sense. 392, something like that. Yeah.
Now the 4.29 that I got for the dong, I think that's our exchange rate at the exchange center. So I don't know what the public rate's going to be for that.
212.
Okay.
Can't tell you how I know that number.
Well, if we've got like a 392 for the Iraq rate, and that at redemption we get 16.
Right. For the dong, we will get 429. The public will get $2 to $212, depending on where they are and what they negotiate. If you go to a bank, you're going to have to negotiate.
It'll probably be lower than that. Street rate.
So if you go to a bank, you're going to negotiate. If you go to a redemption center, you're going to get probably the best they can.
So, I mean, just take a look at the difference between the dinar public rate and the estimated exchange rate, and you kind of have, okay, well, you can kind of do the math on,
Yeah,
the
it's like a-
percentage higher that you're going to get at the exchange center. So,
It's like the public rate is like 1/4 to 1/5 the rate you're going to be able to get at an exchange center. So it's quite a huge difference.
Mhm.
Quite a huge difference. All right.
You have very clear mind to give us great news today. I appreciate it. Okay.
All right. Well, I don't know about the great news part, but anyway. So, as I was saying, they're all saying, look, and now this morning they still say that could happen, but they're watching this market to see what does happen. And so far, it's not happening, guys. And it makes sense. I was thinking about it over the weekend, tell you the truth, and I thought, man, I'm so glad the RV didn't happen. And all of us got paid. And then this happened. You know how many of us would have lost our money? I mean, a great deal of our money right from the beginning. Because everybody would have jumped in these investment markets and put their money out there, or even there's something that's really good for you guys to see. With the rules changes that Trump did and the agreements that you're going to sign, that the banks aren't guaranteeing you anything and aren't going to be responsible for your losses because you're involved in a high risk investment, but the interest rates that they're paying you, the money you put in could be just like everybody's 401k. I tell you guys last week that I had a guy lose $150,000 in one day when this mess started. You can only imagine how much he's lost now. You can go on the internet for yourself, get on TV, listen to the news, and see how many people are complaining about their 401ks disappearing in this mess. I mean, disappearing. People who are about ready to retire and now can't and don't know if they'll ever be able to retire with this. And is it going to continue? Now, I'm not just here talking about this. I'm talking about it so you guys understand why they haven't released the RV. Because if they did, the money be disappearing just like this money is right now. They put it in there and it'd be gone just as quick. So it makes sense to me that they haven't released it until this stops, starts climbing back up, which I thought could be today, which most people thought could be today. But today, Trump just announced 54% additional tariffs on China. Just today. Our largest trading partner ever. 54% on top of the 34%, that's 86% tariffs. If they don't drop off the 34% by Wednesday. And they're not going to do it because they don't negotiate like that, which is crazy. From fear, from threats. It's not how you negotiate to get a change, but he thinks that's going to work. And I'm just saying that because look what it's doing to our market. Now, on the other hand, because I don't want you guys to think I'm just against Trump, as he used the comparisons of what other countries are charging us, something has to be done. It isn't fair, it isn't equal, but that's because we're the big brother. We're the country, we can't expect everybody to do what we do. We produce more, we have more opportunity than anybody else. So we can't expect them, especially the smaller countries, to match us dollar for dollar. And like anything, there's ways to do things. There are ways to get things done. There are right ways and wrong ways, good ways and bad ways, however you want to see it. But this is totally chaotic that's on display right now. The goal is a good goal, the ambition, everything else. It's the way you go about doing it. And right now, it's creating chaos in the financial markets, in the stock markets, in the global markets. All of them are going through because nobody knows which way to go, up or down, right or left. What's he going to say the next hour? So somebody posted that he was negotiating with China. The market started going back up. The White House put out a statement, said that's fake news. We're not negotiating with nobody. The market shot right back down. And I will tell you, when this is over, which we don't know, we get our money, especially if we get it quickly, like they think, as soon as they think this is going back up, jumping in is going to be a great time to make some money. I mean, because they're going to try and get it back to where it was. But this is a historic loss at this point. So I understand us not seeing it on Forex. Even though this morning, I got it right from the bank, said, hey, it could happen today. We're waiting. But everybody thought over the weekend it'll be a different result on Monday, but it is continuing to slide down at a record pace. So that's the only reason I can see it not being done. I want you to know that. In Iraq, they did say a blurb went across your TV in Baghdad Thursday, like a ticker tape on Thursday. They haven't seen anything else. He did say, now this is in Baghdad, they got two ATMs, old one and the new one. The old one's there, the new one was turned off in Baghdad. Even after they told that a historic event is about to happen, it got turned off because nobody knows what's going on. That's my justification. That's what makes sense if you're in the markets at all. Now, I didn't hear from Kurdistan this morning, but like I said, Thursday, Friday, they were actually letting the Lord's alarms out because they thought this was going to happen. And like I said then, they're usually 2 days or a week ahead of Baghdad. But everybody thought it would happen. I didn't talk to the guy who exchanged on Wednesday because the banker told me he would have his money on Monday or Tuesday. So he hasn't called me and said, hey, I'm 100% or anything, so, which I don't expect him to be. Other people who were told they would be pending on Sunday and be liquid on Monday aren't even showing pending. So I've already talked to them. So there's been no movement because nobody knows what to do, which makes sense. It absolutely does. But as far as we're concerned, it's still a go. We're still right there. Iraq doesn't have anything to do. The banking system itself doesn't have anything to do. All the money has still been released to all the countries. They didn't go get it back because they already gave it to them. So all we can do right now, I think, is wait and see what happens with this mess that was created. Seems like every time we get ready to get paid, here's something else and something else. Just can't wait till it's our payday to do something else. Anyway, let me tell you guys this before we get started too. Chat room. This is for the chat room. Well, it's for any of you, really, not just the chat room. Guys, you're all adults. I think you are. I think everybody on this call is over 18. So it's a decision you have to make. And I'm not talking about listening to me and not listening to me because that you already know that it is. But who you trust, who you put your faith in. And by that, I'm just saying people you meet on the internet, people you meet in the chat room, you shouldn't be giving them your full name, your address, your phone number, how much currency you have, what you're going to do. I mean, that's just a name on a screen, like digits on a screen. You don't know that person just because you type back and forth and you talk and say things. That goes for anybody. I don't want your name, your address, or your phone number. I don't need to call you and talk to you about anything I can't talk to you about in the chat room or on the internet. I just don't. Now, I know it's going on, and I know it because people are telling me about it. I know it because right here on this call, I got people that are being called by some of you. You're going back and forth. And that's what I say. It's your choice. You're adults. You're grown. But don't ever say, because Tony said, blah, blah, blah. And Tony said, this was a good guy, this was a good person, this was that. I don't know these people any better than you do. I've never met them in person, I was gonna say. I mean, I did meet Walt. And I had to take 2 shots for we could get there. But anyway, no, I'm just joking. But
Wolverine XRP on X posted at 11:06 p.m. April 7, 2025. Alert: Justin, HSBC notifies customers their services will be temporarily suspended on 20th of April due to maintenance of the faster payment system. HSBC has publicly praised the XRP ledger while working with Ripple behind the scenes. ISO 20022 goes live this year. That's confirmation, maintenance of faster payment. Our FPS services will be temporarily suspended between 00:45 a.m. and 11:15 a.m. on 20th April 2025 for regular system updates and maintenance. Wonder what that means. That falls on Easter Sunday. Incoming said the 14th of April, but 14th of April, 20th of April, today. I don't know. Tired like the rest of you. Forwarded from CJ. Alert. Breaking. Supreme Court sides with the Trump administration will allow them to continue removing Venezuelan Trinidad gang members from the country under the Alien Enemies Act.
Looking live at the White House there, we're getting some breaking news at this hour coming out of the Supreme Court. The U.S. Supreme Court has handed President Trump a victory, letting him and his administration use the 1798 law that historically has been employed only in wartime to swiftly deport alleged Venezuelan gang members as part of the Republican president's hardline approach to immigration, granting that administration request to lift the Washington-based U.S. judge James Boasberg's March 15th order that had temporarily blocked the summary deportations under the Alien Enemies Act while litigation in the case continues. So the Supreme Court has weighed in. Let's start there with our panel. Let's bring in our panel. Susan Page, Washington Bureau Chief at USA Today, Washington Post columnist, American Enterprise Institute Senior Fellow Mark Thiessen, and Sabrina Singh, former Pentagon Deputy Press Secretary. Mark, we assume the Supreme Court was going to get active here soon on some of these cases. This seems like the first, and they're saying not only a pause to bring back that one man that they say they deported erroneously, but this is just allowing them to continue their deportation process.
Yeah, this is a big victory for Trump in the new lawfare. So the old lawfare was try to destroy Donald Trump, 91 indictments, 2 impeachments, civil suits to destroy him and all the rest of it. That all failed. He won the election and came back stronger than ever. And so the new lawfare is to try and stop him from implementing his agenda through a miasma of court cases. And this was a perfect example of it. And the Supreme Court is now allowing him to use this law. So this is a first victory in the fight against the new lawfare.
You've got Vietnam and Iraq setting up their own digital gold asset-backed stablecoin. You see the military drills, which refers to, again, China, Taiwan, what's going to go on there. Here you go here, Washington. Over last week, President Trump talked about believing that he was going to have a peace deal set up with President Putin and Zelensky for Ukraine. That's pretty important. I believe he said he was going to have that done before Easter. So that's a very important demarcation point. And all the links are here for people. So if they want to go and research these articles independently, we left them up for their perusal at a later date. Okay, so we get to the stock market. This is a snapshot we've seen, as you've reported on your channel, and we likewise, massive drops in the stock market on the Dow, Nikkei, Hang Seng, and Japanese stock market even had technical difficulties going offline, probably because they wanted to ultimately stop the bleeding, which you're seeing a lot of the main stocks, Microsoft, Google, Apple, NVIDIA, and the like, are all experiencing major hemorrhaging. And again, this goes back to talking about the draining of the deep state swamps money and reappropriating it back to the people. This is part of the draining of the swamp process. So it's actually a good thing in the scheme of things. Next, we have a Iraq-Vietnam update, as well as Kim Clement prophecy we've talked about before. This gentleman came out, Digital Dinar, talked about last week it not being a coincidence. With the tariffs, it's shaking up the international markets. A lot of the countries are fleeing to the safety, they believe, of BRICS. But this is ultimately to align with the global reset for all the currencies. As we see the stock market going down, Kim Clement had a prophecy back in 2007 about a 20,000 Dow as being a tipping point, and that could be many other things as well. Many of his proclamations, despite what some prognosticators have said, have come to pass and are continuing to come to pass, and we believe this will be one of them, especially when it starts to get down below 30,000. Buckle up, and we're getting to that point faster by the day. Zimbabwe, talking about them a little bit in their own isolated section here. Nelson Chamisa continuing to put out important comms, such as there will be a new language of love in Zimbabwe, the restoration of respect and dignity to all citizens. We shall compliment and not condemn each other. Also, there is a big coup right now, Nicholas, as we talked about last time on our podcast, to get Emerson Mnangagwa out of office, as he is corrupt like many other global leaders. He's also experiencing a lot of uptick in health problems. That might be the excuse they're using to get him out. That sounds a little bit like Prince Andrew and the Pope, if you ask me. And so you're seeing all that precipitate. But again, here's Nelson Chamisa waiting in the wings. You can see him here. There's the video here where the citizens are really rising up to support him on a day-by-day, ever-present basis. And just as a reprise, you can see on the 100 trillion Zim note, for example, that the bonds will be gold-backed under the ZIG by Nelson Chamisa, and even says here, it's a promissory note, a promise to pay to the bearer of note on demand. In essence, possession's 9/10 of the law. Whoever's holding it holds the note. And you don't need to have a humanitarian project. It's not a bad idea, but you don't need it in order to get these redeemed. Okay, it's part 2 of 2 with Nelson Chamisa. He's talking about what is better to trust in the Lord than putting your confidence in man. We know that's true. He's referring to Psalm 118, 8-9, where David was a king leader of God's people, and he understood it was better and safer to trust in the Lord than any human leadership. Faith and belief being activated. And here's a prophetic video that people can, again, peruse their leisure. Here's the link above as I'm pointing to it, where it's talking about the Zimbabwe prophecy of them coming back into prominence, largely due to the fact that the Lord is giving his favor on this country through said leadership of Nelson Chamisa. Also, you'll note here, Nick, at the bottom, Zimbabwe over the weekend waived U.S. tariffs after Trump's 18% levy. Mnangagwa is talking about that with an 18% export tax. Also, it's important to note that Iraq was hit last week with a 39% tariff. As we discussed, Vietnam has capitulated. Iraq has until this week on the 9th to either accept that tariff or turn it down. I think we know how they're going to go. Here's a nice little overview of the commodities, which are the key drivers, obviously, to our economy and the lifeblood of many economies globally: oil, gold, and silver. My friend that we had on has talked about the melt up and where we were last November. You can see some of the indicators here that I'm pointing to with gold. The nice thing to note, Nick, about gold is it's moving up in spite of the stock market problems, which is what you want to see, because that does give competition to the dollar and it helps the other foreign currencies that we all know about. He talked about his target of gold being 3,400 an ounce. When I last checked, it was about 3,050 earlier. I haven't checked since, but we know it's going to move up and they're not going to be able to shake it. And what's equally as important, we've discussed before, is silver. Silver's use in production and everything from manufacturing, AI, robotics, and even human consumption. So silver's importance cannot be underestimated. And now that people are calling in the shorts, which means that they're calling in for physical silver and not just the paper, that's going to only precipitate in the value of gold and silver going exponentially through the roof here pretty shortly thereafter. Also, we'll touch on XRP in a minute, but I should say, the SEC is getting a new leadership with Mr. Paul Atkins. And once he's brought in, he's definitely a proponent of cryptos. He's going to remove the bogus SEC case off of Ripple, and that will set them free, which flows very nicely into the aforementioned precious metals and oil commodity markets. Here's some changes you can see here where, silver has been kind of moving up and down, same with gold. Oil is important because that's the driver. The U.S. is primarily getting oil from a number of places, Venezuela and of course Iraq, but that was the mainstay. But now that they're going to be tariffed, it's going to force their hand to revalue and show all of the other beautiful assets they have: precious metals, rubies, diamonds, sapphires, selenium, and a whole bunch of other things, which is going to show just how robust that country has always been. But one of the beautiful things, Nick, that President Trump has also reverse engineered against the deep state is, as he drops the price of oil, what that does is helps to curb hyperinflation. So I don't know how it goes over there in England, but I would imagine it's similar here stateside America, in the aspect that if you lower the oil cost by him drilling baby drill, that's going to lower the cost at the pump. What does that do? That also lowers the cost of the grocery store, because what gets the food to the grocery stores? Trucks. What do the trucks use? Diesel. So everything is correlated and interconnected, as you well know.
589 Bull on X. What if the Dow crashing to 20,000 isn't a bug, but the plan? Trump just threatened China with 104% tariffs. If China retaliates, the markets won't just flip, they could collapse. But here's the twist. That might be exactly the point. Let me explain. 1. Dow 20,000 isn't far-fetched. A full-scale trade war would crush US multinationals. Supply chains would freeze. Panic would follow. 2. But this isn't just economic policy, it's controlled demolition. What better way to kill the corrupt system than force it to implode under its own weight? 3. Crash, reset. A drop to 20,000 clears the way for tokenized assets, new FX rails, XRP, XDC, asset-backed monetary systems, a shift from debt to value. 4. The old guard panics, the new system activates, gold, silver, XRP, XDC rise, BRICS accelerates, and the public, shaken but awake, demands a better system. This isn't just a market correction, it's the final chapter of the old system. The great shakeout comes before the great reset. Dow 20,000 might be the trigger, not the collapse. Reset, press the red button. Your infinite self, it is beyond illusions. It can replace any current condition of reality, which is all a projection from within it. It is the core of your being, your true nature. Let go of all limiting beliefs until you get to know your infinite nature. Embody it. Darkness will vanish from your experience, and left will be the light that you are.